Greetings, greetings. It is your host, Covenant Awakenings, here on a Shabbat special. That Shabbat special is emergency alert. Emergency alert. The troops are getting ready to get on the ground. No, this isn't hyperbole. It's not anything that is exaggerated. There's not anything that is something that number one, folks are doing this or doing that, and they're being too much. Over the course of the week, and actually the course of these last, I'm going to say 24 hours. And let me tell you, there's a lot of rumors and speculations. You don't need to worry. Try to bring down your stress levels and your cortisol levels because the Most High's got this. Okay, I'll quit that. There's some little buttons and everything on the side, that they added to StreamYard so they could justify, us paying so much for content creators. I don't know. I was trying to find the Three Stooges StreamYard thing because obviously they got Larry, Moe, and Curly, and they're using poor JD Vance like shrimp. Now, could we be in a panic? Absolutely. We could justify the panic. But the problem is, as I had stated, prepare. You don't need to panic. We're prepared. Now, shout out to Pastor Rick. He texted me last night. He said, Brother Karras, you may need to go on. And I said, let me pray about it. And, here's the thing. I'm not going to lie. Hey, Father, you let me go on, but I need a good night's sleep. I had a really good night's sleep. I actually had a dream that I was like on some sort of a Zoom or WhatsApp call with one of the people I had gone to it was a military school with. And a lot of folks on my LinkedIn, I still have some friends from or colleagues, that I had gone to these service academies with. Many of them have already done their commitment and have been out for quite a few years. They've kind of already did what they needed to do. Not a lot of people, believe it or not, I would say a good maybe 25-30% of officers actually want to continue their career. There is a precipitous drop off when those first 4 years of military service is completed. because a lot of folks, they go into the military, especially officers. Some of them will go under the uh, ROTC commitments. A lot of folks would go over in because they wanted to gain necessary leadership skills and development. And that's really one of the easiest ways to kind of go through. So then it's a great resume. It's a great um, platform to step off of. Even if you don't do much, you can still, fake the funk of, oh, I've done all this, I've done all that, I've worked through all this. And, it just depends on how you shape your resume. And especially during the time of war, there was quite a lot of different, I'm going to say, opportunities for folks to say they went there, they did it all. Okay, cool. I really don't like to talk about my military career because it was just this and that, and it was just there are a couple things that were going on and happening at that time, during that time, that really, to be honest, you understood where everything was going without having to articulate how things were going. Now, when I first came into the Marine Corps back in June 4th, technically they'll call it June 5th because that's when I'm in the room and somewhere in San Diego trying to figure things on out as an 18-year-old that had just graduated from high school, that was trying to become an adult, trying to do things on their own, and maneuver on their own. And I really do always say, had it not been for the grace of the Most High, and it had always been, I don't even understand how I got to a lot of the places that I got to. But I do have to say this as I'm letting folks come in during, this, it is a special alert because I'm going to go through and kind of move and maneuver through a lot of these things that's been planned. And I know that it's interesting to go through a lot of the motions per se. But we're here truly at a time where, unfortunately, this has been a carefully curated and crafted narrative that we can only begin to truly imagine. And I know how hard and difficult this is for a lot of people, especially today, to think, well, that doesn't mean anything. It's just this, it's just that, and I get it. A lot of things that we go through, a lot of things that we hope for, they're not what it seems. And I would say for those folks, especially right now, at this time, where people have had hopes and dreams of different things. And we have trolls on in here because when you label something or you do something, of course you're going to have the trolls. And honestly, I don't care. That's, to me, that's fine because they can learn a thing or two. And obviously, they're always here to try to project. There's always a projection. So sorry, you kind of caught me on a Saturday, and I'm here in the background, seeing some things, but I want to start to present some of this stuff here on this Shabbat, because you're now getting the biggest idiosyncrasies in the world. Let me present this, and I want to give you a little bit more of a military analysis that you're probably not going to get from most places. And, and that's okay. I don't say that I'm an expert, but I'll give you a military analysis, especially on what I've known, what I've seen at a obviously an unclassified layman's terms, but still nonetheless very uh, critical to the understanding that we have in today's world. And, everybody is going to get a fragment. We're now in an age of fragmentary information, right? You get a little bit of what they're going to tell you because you're not going to get the full complete story unless you have been involved in this yourselves. And it's funny because if you have listened to the Trump administration, if you've listened to a couple of what they've been saying with um with let me spell that on out. Excuse me. With Pete Hegseth and their, I guess, General Kane, the joint staff. Oh yeah, they're going to be using and utilizing a lot of, look, war crime is out the way. What do they call it? This is now the global purge. All war crimes are now dismissed because who prosecutes the war crimes? Well, if you have a regime that has gone rogue, war crimes are here to stay. I don't know what to tell you. You can get as mad as you want to with the schools being blown up. Who's going to prosecute that? Is China going to step up? Is Russia going to step up? No. So at the end of the day, the actual reality is this. You're now seeing a very limp And that's why I say a very limp international order. And this has now become an international disorder. And now, with this disorder, nobody can say anything to anybody anymore because why? You want to point the finger at me, but what did you just do? You're a hypocrite. The hypocrisy is now too much. And when the hypocrisy becomes too much, then at the end of the day, people don't vote with their fist. People don't vote with their guns. People don't vote with any type of penal or penalties or things of that nature against the US. They can't do it. They have no power to do it. But what people then begin to have the power to do is they take their money and they go elsewhere. They conduct their trade in other currencies, especially other foreign currencies. And thank you for being patient with me, especially on this Shabbat, because I really do want to make sure that I'm covering the bases here so you understand what they are planning to do in and within the next couple of days. We're not talking weeks. We're actually talking days now. So please forgive me. I'm usually a little bit sharper on the weekdays with different things because I'm able together the way I want to get it together. Yes. And that's the wow factor that we are living in. I mean, really think about this. You realize this is now day 15 of the war. You all realize that the first 4 or 5 days they were trying to not cover it a war. They were trying to cover their tracks and say, "Oh, it's just going to be a this and that and this and blah 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 blah." And guess what? Now they're just saying, "Look, this is a war with Iran," because now they're trying to limit the scope of the war because now is it a war with Iran or is it a war with other nations that's going to be either directly or indirectly supporting Iran? They do you understand how big this was a couple of days ago? It was actually yesterday, Friday, Thursday night and Friday. They had to admit that Russia and China were providing military aid through surveillance, well, ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, i.e., them satellites are up there and they're targeting, and they have also other drones and other different military apparatus. Why? Why do you think that they're doing it in Iran? They're field testing. Why? Because once they see the capabilities of an actual U.S. force, let me tell you this. Let me tell you why this is such a big deal. And I had to pray about this. Thank you, Pastor Rick Fletcher, for because sometimes it's like, But I know that our people would be wanting and asking and okay. Because again, this Saturday and this Sunday is totally, it's different. You're halfway between their Lent and their Ishtar. That's not Passover, it's their Ishtar. But amazingly, it's all set up around the same manner. In less than 3 days, Ramadan is done. Give it about a week. They're not fully recovered from Ramadan. It's about 7 to 10 days. It's 7 to 10 days for them to recover when you're on a fast like that, quote unquote fast. What they did is they went on a night shift, and that's not to be dismissive of their religious piousness. It's not, but their bodies are all jacked up because it is an issue with their circadian rhythm. This is why they struck when they struck. About literally a couple days, 10 days after Ramadan. When they re-energize, this is kind of like it's about a 40 to 45 day process. Ramadan technically ends on what, St. Patrick's Day, which is technically, celebrated or recognized as the actual Hebrew New Year's. So a lot of these calendar, lunar, solar events are taking place. And there's no well, I think it's just because it's a coincidence. Well, if you want to think that it's a coincidence, then that's up to you. I'm not here to convince you. I'm actually here to analyze these things, because once you're able to give a proper and this is what they're going off. They're going off of an intelligence assessment. And we're going to go through all that. That's why I need a little bit of time to go through my thoughts, have my thoughts kind of spin up, and then be able to present this to you, most high willing, in a manner that you can start to understand. Because when you understand the assessment, then you start to understand the preparations that's being done because of what they're assessing. Doesn't mean that it's right. It just means that what they're doing is it's based off of their best guess intelligence estimates and assessments, right? And then summaries of what operations look like, either through kinetic strikes by friendly forces or kinetic strikes by enemy forces. It's all part of an intelligence cycle. Let's see how they react. Let's get an understanding of how they react. Let's see how we reposition. Let's see how they react after we do the strike. Let's see how they reposition. It's all a cycle. Now, this is a result of their escalation activities. There's an escalation cycle. There's a life cycle to this. They'll give a life cycle, and then they always have to readjust the life cycle based off of the conditions on the ground. One war will take a life cycle of a couple years. Another war will take a life cycle of potentially a decade or more. Now, I want to kind of break this on down because we're literally at the beginnings of the life cycle that is being put into place. Because as I had explained a few things, I was on the conversation yesterday. You had a lot of the legalistic frameworks being done during the Biden administration. That was as everybody was sleeping, everybody was internally looking here at all these other distraction pieces. Why? You had a lot of our people really fomenting, and I'm not going to say fomenting, but we were reactionary to a lot of the issues that was going on because we were not looking at, and they didn't want us to look at what was happening outside of our environment. Plain and simple, what was happening outside of our environment, as I had told you, with the rise of Africa, the continent, the diaspora, and BRICS, that was the road to war. That was really the book. The book was just the road to war. And now that we're seeing the road to war being completed, because you have the road to war, and then guess what? You're at war. That war started February 28th, less about over 2 weeks to go. So you get you get the kinetic strikes. The kinetic strikes cause the action, and then you have to go through the script. It's a psychological script. They do psychological operations. Part of that is a news cycle. You got to go through the news cycles. And the news cycles have to go through to be tailored, because this day and age, right now, when they had their pre-road to war construct, which was the 12-day war last year, they were trying to engage how the Iranians were going to prosecute this war. And they were going off of that intelligence assessment. Okay, this is how we're going to operate. This is now we do our operational preparation of the battlefield, of the environment. The battlefield isn't just with tanks, guns, ships, airplanes. It starts and it has components and dimensions way outside of that battlefield. And you know who it starts with? It starts here in the United States. They don't care about anybody else. I'm sorry, but they don't. Have any of our people started to come back from the UAE? If they have, that's great. But it was always going to take at least 10 days for that to happen. Because then there's a diplomatic front. Okay, we need to get our people on out. Okay, we need to do this. Okay. Because why? Because under that mask, which is why they did not coordinate this with any other nation besides who? Just, I would say, the settlers and the United States. All the other nations were up at arms. Hey, you have our people there in the midst of this. They could have died, perished, deleted during these strikes. Why didn't you simply inform us? Give us time to leave, to coordinate. Has anybody thought about that? Has anybody else thought about, well, geez, why are these nations that were sitting on over there, these European nations, they're there. Because why? And this is where you get a lot of these talking heads. Oh, I know all this and I know all that, and yeah, they get a platform because they get boosted by social media. This platform, hallelujah, you can hear my voice, but I'm shadow banned. And the reason is because what people don't want to understand or acknowledge is that literally the United States actually, in the provocation of this war, held these nations' citizens captive as human shields. Do you all understand this? Let me give you this example. Let me tie this in because I'm explaining. Let me, and you see the demonstration. So let me give you how this is interpreted. Everybody was caught off guard, including the European powers, those European allies, because The world was just recognizing that the U.S. was in talks, quote unquote, peace negotiations, right? Everything is fine, everything is good, nothing to worry about. I could go to the beach in Doha, I can hang on out in UAE at Dubai or Abu Dhabi, and ride some four-wheeling up some dunes and everything else. Hey, I'm cool. I have my vacation plan in March for a weekend trip or a weekend getaway. That's what they were doing. There was no issues. There was no impact to travel by any means. If you notice, there wasn't really any type of evacuation declarations. Usually you get about 48 to 72 hours. They didn't even do that. They gave them 12 to 24 hours, if 24 hours. Well, we gave you a heads up. That was a heads up that you cannot disseminate information like that no matter what. You just can't. So the trolls on out there, prove me wrong. We can have the debate. We can do all this. I posted the link if folks want to come on up. But if you'd allow me to go through this thesis. What ended up happening is that you had a retaliatory measure that then involved other people's citizens or other countries' citizens. You down with OCC? Yeah, you know me. I wouldn't call it naughty by nature, but you could do NPN. I would I would argue NPN and or NBN, naughty by nature. I would say that it would be NBN, naughty by Nephilim. You down with OCC? Oh boy. Let me get my little thing on up here real quick. Let me get my cash app up here real quick. Because I have a feeling that with Jacoba coming on up here, there's about to be a white screen of death. You talk about being shadow banned. Shabbat shalom, brother Jacoba.
Shabbat shalom. How's it going, Karis?
Oh, well, the inevitable. Look, like you fear the inevitable, but you know that it's coming. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I got to go to the dentist to get this procedure going. But I know that when this procedure goes through, and I know that, if I got to, get surgery and things like that, once I make it through the surgery, it's that road to recovery. You know what I'm saying? This is it.
It's sort of like a lot of people playing catch up because, like my brother and I, what we say, man, if we make it out alive, that's what I mean. That's how we feel about it, right? And
I'm sorry, but doesn't this feel like a scene on remember Pitch Black and Chronicles of Riddick? You need to catch up with me. That's it. Keep moving. That's what it feels like. Like, dang. Thank you, Father, for that imagery. Keep moving. Oh man.
And did you see Canada meeting with Norway and some of the other Arctic allies, pretty much setting up their own defense agreements because they say they're still associated with the U.S., but you could tell they're moving away from the U.S. I'm like,
Look,
does that not align prophetically?
look, I'm just gonna tell you this. I'm gonna tell you this, Brother Jacoba. and I say this with all honesty and all sincerity, but when they have Keith Sweat singing up at the White House, and you already know you have Trump looking like Nino Brown, it's over. It's over.
It's a
Living
mess, man.
over not for the city. It's over. I'm glad you blacks you like it. Yeah, I know. That was the good old days.
So let
Nah,
me ask you, Karis, what do you think about this whole Bibi Netanyahu, alive or dead?
man, I'm telling you, if he's not injured, right? I would say this. I would say this. Excuse me. How many body doubles did they run through?
That's the question. Yo, I was thinking that too.
You know what I'm saying? It's sad, but you know, like that's the most dangerous job that you could find on Indeed. Would you like to have a job in Tel Aviv? Send us your picture.
You can run the whole nation.
You can you can act like you run the whole nation for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Get five-
Look, for me, I'm like, the super devils like that, they don't perish that quick, right? They be around till 100 years old, man. The super wicked, they stay forever.
Man, unless that would say that and we're not talking about the Chrome MacBook supply goes down. You know what I'm saying? Look, they can't be manifesting their little superpowers like that. They're low on that supply. Since that
Yeah.
can't go too deep into that, they'll ban me, and I'll be sitting over on Rumble looking like Paul and Adrian.
Man, look, the way those people are in that Middle Eastern nation, man, you better watch out for your cell phones and your laptops. That's all I gotta say.
Mm-hmm.
Cause that'll be the way they do their Samson option.
Yes, but I also look at it like this, and that's where I'm drilling down to, because it's yes and no. So, um, again, these nations were held hostage, right? You have you have these Arctic countries. They're not dumb. They know that what they would be as Norway, Sweden, Finland, Canada. They're the shields. They're the northern shield. That's why, with Greenland, I really do think that Trump didn't want to really bring people into Greenland, but he wanted to try to strong arm Greenland as that tool, that leverage of his little northern shield. And that is now how you're going to see, because when this blows on up, see what a lot of people don't know, and they only give you bits and pieces of the news story, but I think people tend to forget that Russia was already sending on over the Wagner group into Iran. Did y'all know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It was on a little news cycle clip, and it was done from there.
So is Wagner there today?
Either they're there or they're getting ready to go there. But I think that they were already there as they were providing aid. That was already, so what ended up happening was that back in 2025, you already had aid going over to Iran. You already remember what they don't like to tell you. They were already doing they've been doing basically interagency, intercountry exercises for quite a while, especially when it came to the Strait of Hormuz and things of that nature. Well, why were they doing all those exercises near the Strait of Hormuz? Why were they doing all those exercises in their Arabian Gulf or Persian Gulf, whatever you want to call it, or and even in the Iranian Sea, because, or excuse me, the Arabian Sea, because those exercises then help to support the interconnectivity. Remember, they got to go through language and other obstacles as they're trying to be um, an interagency unit. You don't really have that within NATO because NATO is under English. You want to do anything in NATO, you got to speak English and to an extent French, but they just mainly defer to English. Now, what was happening here as we look at these first cycles of war, because it's cycles, during that time, as countries are now coming on out and basically negotiating with Iran. Did you see a couple of days ago? A Canadian prepper had that, and he was showing the exodus of flights going on. So I'm not going to try to recap all that, but there is an exodus of flights leaving the Middle East, particularly out of Qatar and out of UAE and out of Dubai, right? So those flights were not being interdicted. Those airports weren't being interdicted unless they were being used for any type of military operations by the United States. And so now, basically the Arab countries, those Gulf countries, they had to do uncle. Okay, let's get them on out. But at the same time, guess who they're also getting on out? They're then also able to backfill U.S. citizens to get on out. Okay, that job is done. We can now get them on out. At the same time, now we're starting to build into another cycle. And this brings us to the New York Post article where it says Pentagon sending assault ship at least 2,500 Marines toward Iran as U.S. works to reopen Strait of Hormuz while oil prices spike. This is by Steve Nelson, updated on March 13th. And, they're talking proud and deranged scumbags and, the expected 2-week voyage from East Asia matches Energy Secretary Chris Wright's prediction of reopening the critical waterway by the end of the month. Now, Jacoba, didn't they say that the Strait of Hormuz was already open?
Yeah, I mean that's what I heard. Cause they're allowing certain ships through, right?
Well, yeah, they're allowing certain straight ships too. But if the Strait of Hormuz is allowing certain ships and not U.S. ships, then that means that it's closed. Isn't that what that functionally means?
I
my
mean,
critical
it's
thinking
partially
skills.
closed, right? Because they're allowing Chinese through, Russian ships through, and some of the allies, I guess, and I guess maybe Spain because Spain got rid of a U.S. Ambassador, so I guess some of their ships probably going through.
Yeah, but again, for all of those that are aligned with the U.S. and settler folks, that's closed.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think the semantics and the wordplay, as folks are seeing it, okay, China's going to be good, but what happens to the rest of the people? So let me continue to go down here. So the repositioning of the USS Tripoli, which resembles an aircraft carrier but is smaller and operates closer to shore, was first reported by the Wall Street Journal. So let me do that. That was yesterday. The journal reported that the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, authorized the use of an element of amphibious ready group attached Marine Expeditionary Unit, which is a MEU. That's how we would say that. It's a MEU, the 31st MEU. Typically consists of several warships and 5,000 Marines and sailors, And then Fox News chief national security correspondent Jennifer Griffin confirmed the deployment, but reported that approximately 2,500 Marines are part of the repositioning. And, even though they'll say Marines, you're also going to have your naval forces and your Air Force personnel providing support. So I'm just going to run through here because, again, when I say that they're going to get things together, they're floating, and I would honestly argue this. Who knows that they're not already there in theater? And I would honestly say they may already be there in theater. They may already be in that area. You all have to understand what they do. They preposition. So Driscoll told Bloomberg News in an interview that an AI-enabled MirOps drone provided by Project Eagle Defense venture backed by former Google CEO Eric Schmidt were sent to the Middle East within 5 days of the start of Operation Epic Fury. I think, to me, just with my personal understanding, that these forces had already been pre-positioned to be in the area. Now, will they be operational? Not yet. Not yet. They need to go through, they need to see, they also need to do other operations when it comes to softening, i.e., bombing campaigns and things of that nature, which they've been doing. So they've been doing the bombing campaigns. Don't think that it's just they're going to continue to bomb and bomb. And they can't bomb forever, even though they're going to try to say we got unlimited bombs. Not really, not really. But that's also the information psychological, tactic. Now, when Iran literally shows, and they show them, go up to upscroll because you may not find it on X. They'll show it. They'll show their tunnels just going through, and missiles and everything else, and you can tell their factories are in their tunnels. I'm sorry, but when I saw that thing, I said, oh my goodness. These folks look like Mordor from Lord of the Rings. Did it not, Yakoba? they're, they're manufacturing stuff like they're the dwarves or the trolls or whatever. And them fantasy sci-fi. But they're under the mountains, literally manufacturing a complete arsenal. Now, do they have to have ships? I'm going to say this. No. The ships wasn't. It's an easy sell for those that don't know how really the warfare goes. It's a very easy sell. Because if you're not really astute to how warfare is, ships are ships. But if you're taking out ships with different drones, different ordnance, different delivery systems, that's all that is. You could be all big, but guess what? It doesn't matter the size of the fighter, really. It just matters the punch that fighter takes in the face and how that punch is delivered and the impact of that punch. And guess what? That face then drops, and guess what else drops? The whole body. So with that, in that analysis, let me explain this one here. So you now have Karj. And Carge, if I can bring up Google Maps, because my man, whenever I be bringing up Google Maps on these broadcasts, they don't like it very much. All right, because I want you all to kind of take a look so you can see how this is going. All right, so let me go on out here. There's different spellings of things depending on how things are seen. So let me share this screen with you all. So let me put my military analysis hat on. Okay. So it says Kark, but if you go down here, that's Carge Island. Oh boy, they don't tell you this, a Nestorian church. But I thought that they're all Muslims. There it goes. Let me put that on up there. It's the remains of it. I'll get rid of that. But that's Carge Island. Hopefully you all can see that in the chat. And in that island, here you go. These are all your main oil refineries. Mixed in those refineries, you now have a landing strip, which is very vital. That's the most important thing.
So
That
that's
J,
why the U.S. wants to go there. They want the
yes,
oil.
yes. Well, it's not just the oil. Yeah, they want the oil. See the NGL? That's really the liquid natural gas. See the power plant, and then those are the gas refineries right here. Those are gas refineries. If, I've been up. I've been in one of those when it's been blown up. Very interesting. Very interesting. But this right here, it's a great place to stage operations, especially if you're in the Marine Corps and that's an amphibious operation that you would have. Now, if we take a look here, roughly speaking, from Carge to, because in there you can see there's a ruler. So this strip is a little more than 2 miles, about 2.5. So we're literally talking less than 50 miles, maybe 30 to 40 miles, depending.
But if they use that as a staging ground, it seems to me that's a debt trap.
It is. The reason it is because let me tell you this. Um, you have probably here in this area, you see these mountains right here? These mountains are now probably less than 200 miles away. Brother Yakoba, what is this area? The Shiraz area? Isn't this the Kirkhamani area? If I'm
What
not
the area
mistaken.
where the Carmenians were
Yes.
located? Carmen,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Interesting.
You see what I'm saying? And now I'm going to have that caveat there because what it is that they're trying to do, they're not going to penetrate this. This is too much. They can't penetrate it. If you've noticed, look how close that is to Bashir. That's what they're trying to get to right there. I'm going to tell you all of these places right here are heavily, heavily fortified. Now, here's the reality to this. Is it Carge? They'll say it's Carge. I don't know. But to me, yeah, could you get to it from Kuwait? That's about 200 miles. Little less than 200, probably a little more than 200 miles. They went after PSAB. And PSAB is literally like right around here. There's Air Base. That's Prince Sultan Air Base. That was what is being attacked. And Prince Sultan Air Base, that's Al Kharj. And then a little ways away is Riyadh. And there you go. That's where the U.S. has been staging their operations. And that's where things have been attacked. I didn't say it. That's what's been reported. That's where things have been attacked. Now, if you go on out here and you take a look, you're now roughly within about a 500-mile flight from Al Kharj, or excuse me, Prince Sultan Air Base to Kharj Island. So from where more than likely they would deploy, because to be honest, Kuwait is just too close. Will they deploy some of their forces from Kuwait? Maybe, but I wouldn't jump on that. I wouldn't have that as a guarantee. Could they come from Dammam? Probably, possibly, but this Ras Tanura, that is a major oil refinery right here, and on top of that, all of these areas, this is your oil belt. That's your oil belt. A lot of these islands, even some of these islands on out are on out here. I'm not going to name anything for the sake of just because I could get in trouble. They produce oil. Sorry, give me a second. Look, I told you Google and my maps and my laptop doesn't mesh very well. Okay, so when I talk to you about intelligence assessments and operations and things of that nature, well, let me explain this to you all. This right here is the Strait of Hormuz. This is what they've been saying, right? This is what they've been showing. Now, the reality is, you see these little islands that pop up on the Strait of Hormuz. Believe it or not, within the Strait of Hormuz, this is one of the most active underwater areas that's there. And this is actually relatively, see, the Abu Musa and Greater Tomb areas, you actually have very shallow water. So they do have to go through a pattern, and that pattern makes them the sitting duck. So again, they're sitting here in Iraq. They're sitting here over off of, I think this is Keshem Island, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Keshem. And then you have this is still a major military presence here at Bandar Abbas that they can interdict. They don't have to sell on out, but they have something called USVs. You all have never heard of USVs because they don't call them USVs. But for military, They call them USVs. They're actually underwater submersible, or excuse me, unmanned submersible vehicles. Unmanned submersible vehicles. Those are your underwater drones. They've been using underwater drones really since 2018, 2019, and they've been perfecting it. Through Houthis, Houthis were a training ground. Houthis just didn't have all of the inherent capacity. No, they didn't. They had Iranian targeting officers over in Yemen doing what? They were learning. So they now have years. They've now had years to perfect their trade craft of UAVs and drones, as well as USVs or underwater drones. Now, will they, i.e., the Marines, will they go up into this area? Honestly, no. So you have really more than likely, you have the U.S. forces probably on over here, because when you get over into these areas, it gets a little iffy. And if I were Pakistan, I would say get away from us. So they're probably sitting somewhere over here, because Oman is also saying get away from us too. So there's somewhere over here at a very farther point. So obviously I won't disclose it, nor can I disclose it, nor do I even have an opportunity to. No, I don't. However, I'm going to tell you this. China and Russia probably already had the satellite imagery. This is where things are going to start to take a very interesting turn. I believe that when the 31st Mu comes, they're going to be coming from here, from this area. This is Okinawa. More than likely, they probably already left, so they're transiting here. They should be in the area probably within about 4 to 5 days. Because more than likely, you still have a lot of open water and open sea. China's going to probably just let them go through, because they do have to go through the South China Sea. They're not going to go around Okinawa. They're definitely going to go through Taiwan. So why is that route important? Because once they kind of get out of these Malaysian Straits or the Malaccan Straits right here, then they're to the open waters into the Indian Ocean. And then once they're really past the Maldives, they're in the Arabian Sea. Now, why is that important? It's important because if you looked at the targeting construct of Iran, they're able to utilize, they now said, a 2,000 to 3,000 kilometer missile rocket through the Khorramshahr or the Khyber. And so if you're looking at a 3,000 mile, or excuse me, kilometer range, you now have a targeting, especially from a point over here, you now have a targeting aspect of somewhere Yeah, let's just draw a range fan. I remember we used to have the little, little bisector things, and you go from there. Technically speaking, that could cover most of the Arabian Sea. That could be impacted. And if Yemen, the Houthis also have it, there's overlapping fields of fire in this area. That's why I said they'll probably come around here in this area near Karachi over by India. So I'm just giving you my assessment. I could be wrong. But from there, what they would probably do, as they would then lay down fields of fire, they would have them in that have some sort of an insertion, probably going into areas in southern Saudi Arabia. And take then they can have the logistics component to get over to Karj. Now, if they do that, that to me is kind of where they would, exfil some of the Marines or any other special operation forces. However, I'm telling you, this is all best case scenario. Because if they try to say that they're going to lay down some sort of a suppressing fire when they're getting up near the Gulf, because they can have folks coming from out of, there's an air base around here. Let me make sure. That air base that they have, and it just escapes me, it escapes my mind. I used to interact with them all the time. But they're able to then try to provide some sort of interdictions. Will that interdiction work? I don't know. Probably not. My best guess is this. I think they'll let them go right into the mousetrap. Hey, look, they know that we're not playing. I think, to be honest, they'll let them come right up to here. Look, see, we're able to get near the island, and they know. That's my opinion. You have to remember, if you have a force that believes that they're technologically superior, and it's this. I'm going to share this article right here. Because I know that, look, we deal with this all the time. We right? We deal with literally their blind spots all the time. Brother Koba, I know you know the scripture that I'm thinking about. The trap has been laid. The Babylon trap. I'm thinking
I
Koba.
can't slip in my mind.
Oh, let me
You
let
got
me
to give
see.
me a little more. What does it say?
Um, I think it was the nations have fallen for the trap, or Babylon has fallen for the trap. I don't know if it's in Jeremiah 50 or 51, but I do know. Oh man, I think it's going to be Obadiah because
Jeremiah 50:24.
I believe so. I believe so. But I think it. But I also think it's this. Obadiah chapter 1, or Obadiah 1, and it says, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee, they have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee, and there is none understanding in him. Shall I not in that day, saith Yahuwah, even destroy the wise men of Edom and understanding out of the mount of Esau? And thy mighty men, O Teman, shall be dismayed to the very or to the end that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. I look at it like this. We're now seeing them being cut off or getting ready to go into the process of being cut off by slaughter. Because remember, who can make war? Now, it's not just making war against the beast, but look, this is Babylon. She's not going to see any loss of her children. Well,
One
that
thing I
leads
could
it.
tell you,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, one thing I could tell you, to me, it really looks like it's setting up for the second Ezra 15
Yeah.
battle. Even, the Carmanians, before it's like, well, why did they use Carmanians instead of just saying Persia? But Carmen is, right near that area in the mountains, which is where supposedly they got a lot of the missiles at. We see in verse, I think it's 41, where the flying swords are being shot, right, and destroying everything in the region. You see Asia involved. You see Arabia involved in the same area. You see Assyria involved, which would be Iraq, right? I'm like, this is looking a lot like second Ezra 15, possibly, right? To me, a high probability.
And here it is. I had this shared. Um, it says, behold, in horrible vision, and the appearance thereof from the east, where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon earth, that all they which hear thee may fear and tremble. Also, the Carmanians, raging in wrath, shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they come and join battle with them, and shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. Is this not what we're seeing? The land of
It
the
looks
Assyrians
like it.
being wasted, right? Now here's it. Here we go. And then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature, and if they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in great power to persecute them, then shall these be trouble bled and keep silence through their power, and shall flee. And from the land of the Assyrians shall the enemy besiege them and consume some of them, and in their host shall fear be, or host shall be fear and dread and strife among the kings. Behold, clouds from the east, and upon from the north unto the south, they are very horrible to look upon, full of wrath and storm. Well, where's the Mew coming from? They're coming from Japan. That's where they're coming from, Japan. This is one of the things that I was looking at. I'm glad you came on in here, Yakoba, because this is very prophetic. Here we go. This is Second Ezra 15:34. Behold, clouds from the east and from the north unto the south, they are very horrible to look upon, full of wrath and storm. They shall smite one upon another. They shall smite down a great multitude of stars upon the earth, even their own star. And blood shall be from the sword unto the belly, and dung of men unto the camel's huff. And there shall be great fearfulness and trembling upon earth. They that see the wrath shall be afraid, and trembling shall come upon them. And there shall and then shall there come great storms from the south and from the north, and another part from the west. So I would say, Brother Yakoba, based upon what you see here in Second Esdras, in your interpretation, I need to talk to the prophetic resource. What do you see from the word? Because and I know for those that may not know or understand a lot of these things, these this is the base components that go into your Jeremiah, that go into your Isaiah, that go into what the minor prophets that they say have talked about. But these have been literally banned by the Vatican. Shabbat shalom, brother Fast Nickel. Let me get Jacoba's thought on this, and then I'll
Shabbat
come
shalom.
through. Because brother Fast Nickel, I'm so glad you're here because we already know it's getting ready to go down. So, so go ahead, brother Jacoba.
Yeah. So what I see, it looks like this could be it. I mean, we'll see when it happens, but it appears to me that this whole region gonna light up, right? First, it's gonna be Iran fighting Arabia, which is inclusive of Israel, the U.S., and Saudi Arabia. The UAE and Qatar, all of them gonna get involved. Then Turkey, coming from the north, is gonna get involved. Asia is going to get involved, which would be China, right? We could see China has an alliance with Iran. Russia definitely going to be involved. This whole thing going to light up. Now, think of this as the economy start to crash because there will be no oil.
Come on.
Uh, you know, and
Yeah.
then what's going to happen? They, according to Second Esdras, they're going to turn their face toward the U.S., right, which is Israel's ally, right? And so we, as I mentioned earlier, about Canada forming a new alliance with some of these Arctic nations. I guess they're not going to be on the U.S. side since the U.S. was talking about taking Canada and taking Greenland, right? So they might, at minimum, they might look the other way as these other nations come against the U.S. I'm gonna tell you, it looks like it could be. I don't know, but you know.
Well, now think. Now, I want us to come back because there's an article right here. I think I put that in the chat earlier. Let me share this tab. Here is this if I can get that on in here. Trump's humiliating war miscalculation exposed. This is from 2 hours ago from an Annabella Rossoglione. I probably butchered her name, but you know the intent. So President Trump convinced that Iran would quickly bend to any U.S. pressure, repeatedly ignored his generals' warnings about Iran crippling a crucial oil shipping lane. General Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, repeatedly warned Trump that Iran would likely disrupt the Strait of Hormuz in response to a U.S. attack, according to a new report in the Wall Street Journal. In several briefings, Kane warned the president that Iran would send missiles and drones to the area. Sources told the journal that Trump acknowledged the risk but moved forward with his deadly war anyway. Trump told his administration that he thought Iran would capitulate to the U.S. before it closed the straits, adding that if the strait was threatened, the U.S. military could handle it. And they can't.
Maybe they would have capitulated if they didn't kill their freaking leader and their children.
That's, yeah. Yeah. Let's go back to Second Esdras. Let's go back. Because when people understand that right here. Also, the Carmanians, raging and wrath shall go forth as wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they come and join battle with them, and shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians.
And Carmen or Kerman is what it's called today. Kerman,
Mm-hmm.
the same territory that was called Carmanians. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where the mountains is. And guess what? That's where the missiles are in the mountains, aren't they? That's where the military and the vehicles and everything underground, under the mountains.
And then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature. You notice that they haven't capitulated, the Arabs, right? They haven't that, but guess who has? A lot of the Europeans have. A lot of the Europeans are saying, "Hey, let's do this, let's do that." What's happening? Certain vessels, right, are going out of the port. Now, the US always tries to say, "Well, see, we got the port opened." No, it's just certain vessels. Remembering their nature, and that they shall turn themselves, conspiring together and great power to persecute them. Who is that? The Carmanians or the Kermans or the Iranians. Bashir, nuclear power, right? They want to take over the nukes, and they want to take over the oil. They want to continue to persecute. Here we go. And from the land of the Assyrians shall the enemy besiege them and consume some of them. In their host shall be fear and dread and strife among their kings, which is what they're doing. Behold, clouds from the east. We read this, but I wanted to go on down here. And then there shall come great storms from the south and from the north, and another part from the west. The strong wind shall arise from the east and shall open it. And the cloud which he raised up in wrath, and the star stirred to cause fear toward the east and west wind shall be destroyed. The great and mighty cloud shall be puffed up, full of wrath, and the star that they make, that may make all the earth afraid, and them that dwell therein, they shall pour out every high and eminent place and horrible star, fire and hail and flying swords, and many waters that our fields may be full, and all rivers with the abundance of great waters. I'm sorry, but that to me sounds like the Poseidon missile, the tsunami, the nuclear tsunami. I'm just saying. But Brother Fast Nickel, going back, because this was something that we had discussed. Brother Fast Nickel,
Yes.
can you kindly explain what is happening with BlackRock right now?
Well, that's that's what I actually wanted to say. In my opinion, this is all a charade. Because to me, there's events that have to happen. Now, as I texted you last night, in since October, I think it is, BlackRock stock has gone from 1,200 plus to 900. They've lost a lot of money, and they're not allowing their investors to take their money out. That's what's happening with them.
What does that mean if they're not allowing the investors to take their money out? If you can break that down to layman's terms.
So they don't want, as we would say, a run on the bank. Because if everybody, out of fear, everybody want to take out their money, that's gonna kill their stock, for one. The thing to me is, I still think that April is a month what we may see a black swan or a false flag, something to crash the markets totally.
All right. So
But
I'm glad you
reset.
I'm glad you said that. And the King's Daughter, thank you for the gift. Hallelujah. Now, here's what I believe is that Black Swan event. I believe the confrontation that we're probably going to have in less than, I would say, 4 to 5 days. They don't have time for this. Gas is going up. Gas is going up at a precipitous rate because now people are understanding that they cannot keep those gas fluctuations down. So as I'm even looking at AAA and things of that nature, the current average is 372. That's just in my area.
California is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. The national average is 367. They're trying to say that it was a price change. Well, of course, it's going to be a price change. There's arbitrage and manipulation that Trump has already said he's using for that. Oh, yeah, we're going to get the Marines in and yada, 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 and this and that. I'm going to tell you this. This is a black flag that they're setting up. The false flag. See, the black swan, the false flag.
This is just my opinion. I mean, we're looking at now, let's say a 4 to 5 year window. Because if you look at the 2030, by 2030-ish, they want to have you own nothing and be happy.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of things have to take place. I just think that they always need an event to use as the reason why the reset will happen.
Mm-hmm.
So,
oh yeah.
And then when you just look at all these other, like, I mean, in all honesty, I mean, you hear rumblings, like you hear Canada talking to other countries, etc. But like everybody's silent, no different than in January. No one really did anything when this stuff happened in January.
Mm-hmm. Because what was January? Remember, January was just the whole Greenland distraction. Did you see how quickly they pivoted from Greenland to Iran? It was like in less than 6 hours. You didn't even hear about Greenland.
I wasn't even talking about Greenland. I thought it was January when Iran and U.S. bombed. I mean, U.S. and Israel bombed Iran. Wasn't that January or maybe December?
That was June. That was June 2025.
Wow, it was June. It was. Wow, how time flies.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember? Yeah. Go ahead, Jacob. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I do agree with Fast Nickel that I believe that all of this is a sophisticated script, right? That doesn't mean everybody's part of the play, right? But that the elite, the ones at the very top of each nation, is playing their role. So, for instance, they have to destroy the old world order, which means America, which is, you know, the whore that rides the beast. They don't want that. They want a multipolar order. And as Brother Fast Nickel was saying, they want to bring in the digital currency, the electric vehicles, you know, the social credit system, right? They got to destroy that's why Trump did what he did, and how the Constitution means nothing. ICE can come in and do what they want. They're destroying the old order, right? And so in the very end, if we look at Second Ezra showed us that they're going to come against Babylon. And according to even Jeremiah 50:51 and Revelation, she's going to burn, which means that the old order is gone. The multipolar order takes over, which is the 10 horns, right? And so all of this at the very top, whether that be Satan or whoever at the very top, right, is manipulating these events to create this new system. Because as Fast Nickel was saying, they use, like, let's say World War I, World War II is a reset, right? League of Nations, United Nations, and now we're going to have this new system. They always got to create this new system out of chaos because people are more malleable when chaos happens, when they're struggling and hungry and famine. And so, if they leave everything like it is and there's peace in the Constitution and the rule of law, you'll never get the new system. So they got to destroy the whole thing. It's a complex and brilliant move.
Now let me turn people's attention here to Second Esdras, right here, right here. And they shall pour out every high and eminent place a horrible star. What does that mean? To me, this is
sound like nukes.
Yep.
Nukes.
Fire and hail and flying swords and many waters. What does that mean? They're going to be fighting. They're going to be fighting everywhere. Except
and flying swords, which is missiles, which is what they're already doing, and they're going to have more missiles.
Doesn't flying swords sound like a kung fu movie?
Yeah.
So, and they shall break down the cities and walls, mountains and hills, trees of the woods, and grass of the meadows, and here's the key word, and their corn, their food. What was going on right now with fertilizer? Fertilizer is being cut. The production's being cut because those LNG byproducts, liquid natural gas byproducts, those are the basic components for fertilizer.
Yeah, it makes me wonder how safe it is.
Yeah, now it's not safe, because I was talking about that. I'm like, nah, compost and usually cow manure, dung, things of that nature. Something that actually is natural fertilizer is really the best fertilizer, just in my opinion. But that's probably the fertilizer for the fake foods, for the GMOs, that.
Yeah, that's true.
When I look at the way the world is at the current moment, I personally think a lot of the things that you're mentioning in scripture is 5 to 10 years out still. And the reason I say that is because, for one, the digital currencies, the own nothing, be happy, but also it's only right now where we're starting to see these nations build up Africa. So I think it's going to take about 5 or so years for Africa to be built up for us the way scripture talks. I just think we're still a little too soon.
Well, here's the deal, in my opinion, which, after studying scriptures for years, you got to look at these scriptures as over years or over decades or whatever like that. So like, one verse may be a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 10. We don't know. Right. So it's like you can't compress it all to like all of this got to happen at the same time, because as we see today, right, some of the things that's happening right now in Iran and the Middle East or whatever is partial fulfillment, or could be partial fulfillment of what we see in Second Esdras. Right now, the culmination of a lot of these scriptures goes all the way to even Armageddon, like Joel chapter 3. Right, Joel chapter 3. Obviously, the first few verses are going to happen probably relatively soon, but then the end of those verses is going to happen at Armageddon, and so we got to look at it that way and not compress it.
Well, and going back to 2026, right? The era of the diaspora, the African Union era of the diaspora. Even right now, and I'm going to tell you this. Remember, Yacoba, back in 2020, 2021, remember, Black people and Africa and all this other stuff will never unite. And that, you know what I'm saying? Now it was, oh, they're giving citizenship to certain places. They're doing permanent residencies and things of that nature. Oh, they're trying to have a campaign to have us come home.
And it's it's the decade of reparations with the AU now. Coincident?
Yeah, and Ghana had just asked for reparations. Come on now. Why is Ghana asking for reparations? Because they're going to build up. At this time, what else is happening? Up. Yes.
Guess what else is happening? So with Iran bombing the UAE and Qatar and all of them, guess who getting a little advantage? Guess Sudan is getting some headway now because the rebels aren't getting the weaponry resupply from the UAE, right? So look, Africa could flip, man. Look, the stuff that seems to be happening, like even with South Africa pushing back at the U.S., right? Stuff like that. I mean, Africa could happen overnight. Because remember, Babylon is destroyed in 1 hour.
Wait.
That's relatively short.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, and I want us to really kind of take a look at that, because this is where the context of what you're seeing. This is when geopolitics and prophecy. So all geopolitics is, it's the secular understanding of what has already been prophesied, right? It's just more of a real world. They want to have it as a 3 to 5 year, or even 6 to 12, depending on how they're able to frame things in their concept, their space of knowledge, right? Their time frame of knowledge. However, we have more of a strategic advantage because the word has already declared it, and the Most High's word never comes back void. It's going to do everything that it's set to accomplish to do. And now, as you're absolutely right, yes, now these other countries, they're now having to put the squeeze. That means they have to cut off these operations of destabilization. The operation of destabilization is happening right now as we speak. That has been happening, but now it is going to start stabilizing, because when people don't get paid, then there's no will to fight.
Let me add a comment here.
Mm-hmm.
So, and some of this is directed to you, Brother Yacoba, just to get your feedback. So, obviously I've been in crypto for a long time, and in 2025 was like one of the worst years I've ever seen. And you can see, one of the reasons I got into crypto when I did is because it was the only asset class that wasn't manipulated. Well, that's done. It's manipulated now also. But they're manipulating it for two reasons: to get the prices as low as they can get it for the institutions to buy, but to get the fearful to sell. Mm-hmm. Now we're talking, everything that you're talking about here, we're talking on an international level, but really America and Americans haven't really been affected. But the moment we have this false flag / reset of currencies between now and 2030, when they want you to own nothing, what Americans are going to go through is going to be hell on earth.
Oh yeah.
Well, and that's what I wanted to say. So so here's the reality of this. As much as you hear in the White House, in the current administration, that now they're saying they didn't start the war because they had a feeling, because they had this. You want to know what they did? They flinched first. They said uncle first. They played chicken first. They swerved. And guess what? That was it. Now, in the course of the continuum, yes, could it take years? It could be. But in my opinion of how quickly things are moving, and because of the scale, now they're playing with money, and money has something called velocity. There's things called financial velocity. There's a financial speed in money. Okay? Remember, when at the top things start to trickle down, because them rich folks, they're making sure they're getting theirs before anything else falls apart. They're leaving first. They're getting theirs first. You're not going to hear anything about anything until they're good and ready to say in that press release, okay, now you can tell them. Yeah, they're going to tell you as soon as they don't left the country.
Yeah.
You know, look, and it's not being funny, but that's just the reality of it.
That's how
But
they move.
that's how they move. Exactly. So in this operation, like people should have already known. Look, Trump wasn't just bankrupting the country. Trump was doing a full Atlantic City boardwalk implosion, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
and it's gonna actually be literally fire, destruction, and nuclear weapons on top of that. Because why? Because it's not just that he's trying to fleece the U.S. Don't get that twisted. He's not just trying to fleece the U.S. He's trying to fleece the whole world. Okay,
And
go ahead.
And in my
Go ahead.
opinion, the reason why he's trying to fleece the whole world is because with the 2030 agenda, what you have is what you have, right?
Yep.
And you're not going to be able to become rich anymore. What you have is what you're going to have. And so when they have to crash, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, America has to fall soon, this year, next year, relatively soon, if they're, like I think, moving toward the 2030 agenda, which seems to be a hard set, right? The 2030, somewhere from what I saw, 2030, 2033 max is the deadline for this full Luciferic end game. Now, if you look at what happened with the Epstein files was a catalyst for Trump to do what they want, right? They manipulate people. You either remember the recording where he said, "If y'all don't do something about this, I'm gonna take all of y'all down," right? If they bust me, I'm gonna take all of y'all down, right? Assuming that was legit.
Yeah,
And so,
exactly.
yeah, but I think it was legit because right after that we in war. But anyway,
It's actions that speak louder than words. Go ahead, brother
Well,
Pastor.
Karis, on a couple of your shows, you pointed out there's a serious liquidity crisis.
Yes.
And so this is why they need to do the reset like yesterday.
Yeah.
Yes. Like when BlackRock put that memo on out there and what they stated, it gives everybody the fair chance that, okay, we're saying this now because we're going to bankrupt you next week.
Yep.
And it's not necessarily like a one false flag. There's going to be a cascading actions of false flags. And to me, I think that, just me personally speaking, don't get crazy. Don't go on out there just, doing crazy things. But we can see that this is getting ready there's going to be a lot going on next week. Hang on to your seats. That to me, this is why, when Pastor Rick Fletcher said, "Hey, brother Karras, you may want to go on out there and, you may want to speak on something soon." I could get it, but sometimes, you just get so distracted with the day and everything else, and then it's like, okay, my body need a reset so then I can understand things. But then the Ruach was like, okay, yeah, you could say something.
Confused about which property you should buy.
No, I'm not confused. Because there ain't gonna be no properties here. Because why? Look, because why? Because now, remember, look, the game that Trump is playing with the United States, with people in the United States, is what? He didn't start the war. It was all Iran and this and that. Everybody now, even in Europe, are saying, no, the U.S. started this. And guess what? Now these calamitous actions are going to start occurring. And when these calamitous actions start occurring, you see what I'm saying? It's like the Mexican standoff. Everybody's going to get wiped out.
Yeah.
Oh, snap. We all got wiped out, and it's only the U.S. that's standing. And then people are going to be, because why? What do they always do? Even with Iran, what are they doing? They're being all boisterous. And then the U.S. is going to be like, look, we told you so, and blah, blah, blah. They're going to speak a lot of, slanderous things.
So let me show y'all how sophisticated I think the dialectic is. Right.
Yeah.
So we have the Epstein files, right? Everybody is aghast, right? Because of the Luciferian nature of it, the eating of the babies, the drinking the blood, the PDF files, all these things, right? So you have evil that is, nobody question, right? That's evil, right? So now if I ask you who is the people behind the Epstein files, who would you say? Who would you identify as the people behind the Epstein files?
I say
It's the people in the Middle East, right?
Yeah,
Revelation 2939, right?
Yep.
yeah. I would also defer to, the Vatican, but that's just my opinion.
But that's where I'm going, right? That's where I'm going. See, Karis always right there, right? So but the Vatican isn't the ones in the list, even though we know they got PDF files as well, right? But let's look at the influencers who have over 5 million followers, right? Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and all, which is Russell Brand, right? All of these people are what? What are they now? Catholics, right? And they had another woman I was listening to, Tucker Carlson. They carried something she was on about how she was part of this religious thing, for religious freedoms, and they got rid of her because she wasn't a Zionist. But guess what she is? She's Catholic, right? She says she grew up as a evangelist type person, right, or Protestant. But everybody who has influence is converting to Catholicism. Why? Because they're coming in. You're going to see the big evil. Now, who's the real people now? We the people. So by association, them people who stole our identity is now looking like the devil. Okay. So by reference, anybody who claims to be them gonna be evil. Oh, it's slick, right? So we gonna be the evil ones, even though we're not them. They did all the devil work, but they're gonna associate it with us. They're gonna go to Catholicism because Catholicism, from what I'm hearing, they're saying that Catholicism is traditional. They've been around a long time. They're stable. They're consistent in what they believe in. Right. And so now they're going to rise, right, in their universal religion. They're going to come with the Muslim. They're going to come with the Buddhists, right, because they're universal. And they're going to be the ones to bring in the peace, because nobody trusts politicians anymore, because all the politicians in the Epstein files. Right. But you're not hearing anything about Cardinal so-and-so, I'm sure that's in there. Right. They're all being protected.
It's so dead on, because when you look at all the AI things that they put out there showing that Epstein touched, there's not one I've seen that has a pope or anything of Catholic, and they
were. Yeah, but they were, and the saddest thing was, remember, they were the originals. How many did Benedict and the one guy, after him? I forgot the pope's name already, from Argentina. How many folks did they have to censor? They didn't excommunicate them; they just censored them, right? They didn't do anything to them. They just censored them. How many? And that's the reality. Because why? Because, to be honest, when people try to talk about, it's the beast system and that beast system is going to revert back to the Catholic Church. That's still the dragon. Don't get it twisted. It's still the dragon, but the influence is going to be lost, because when all this goes down, then all the nations have to sit up and say, dang, the Most High was with them and all this craziness. And we're going to say, yeah, you see what's been happening? You see all this happening? Now, I look at it like this, because this is just my opinion. This is my opinion as I go the second Esdras. This right here is also Obadiah, just in the breakdown, right? So in their corn to me represents economy. Economy is food. The food's a byproduct of different things, right? You destroyed everything. So then, and they shall go steadfastly unto Babylon and make her afraid. Why is that? Because Babylon destroyed all the economies. Babylon look, the false flag is then going to create an overreaction. Why is that? Oh, you done took out our military folks. You done took out a lot of this. We're going to hit. But then Russia's going to say, no, if you hit us, then we're going to hit this. And they're going to say, if you hit this, we're going to hit that. Do you see how that craziness starts to go? You see that scene in what was it? Terminator Genesis, right? Where all them nukes are launching all these stars. Here's
And do you
this.
see how it's
Yeah, go
set
ahead.
up for the Israelites in America to be destroyed, right? Because we in the midst of her, let
Yes.
alone we got these black Hebrew Israelites, that's what they call us, claiming to be the real Yahudim, right? So now the Yahudim being associated with Satanism, ain't nobody gonna have any compassion. They're gonna say they all no good. It's so simple.
Well,
It
if they're the
really
people,
is.
what is that? What is this? If they're the people, then let them prove it by surviving this.
Yep.
But it may,
They're gonna be mad at everybody, but go ahead, yeah.
what you're saying makes so much sense because we know in the end there's the Antichrist and the false prophet. So there has to be a religious piece to this.
Yep.
So it is going to be through the Catholic Church.
Well, but you won't recognize it because they're gonna. And I'm gonna tell you this. It's gonna be so slick. It's gonna be so slick. They're gonna say, now that we've seen the salvation of our Elohim, we need to take away that edict and we need to bring our people back.
True, but and also what you just said, it probably may not be the Catholic Church because the other element that hasn't reared its head yet is the fallen or the aliens, as they want to call it. So through the aliens, they may just create a whole brand new religion.
I think that
That's
will be
possible.
later. I think that will be later because you still have to account then for the ships of Tarshish in Isaiah. You see what I'm saying?
That's true. We still have to go back home, yeah.
Yes. Once we go back home, remember, there's none of us. And what we have always been, we've always been the conduit for them of safety. So then when we leave, it's literally the definition of hell on earth because that is then going to be their captivity to things that is monstrous, devilish, demonic.
Now, have y'all listened to the Asian guy, Professor Jane?
Yeah, some of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So he calls everything package Judaica, right? Once again, is putting it on, the Yahudim. But it's really, like I posted earlier, is Pax Romana 2.0, right? Because all of these people Romans anyway. Most people don't realize it. And so, we have this whole setup against us, which is why, we can see why the world will come against us and allow us to be attacked by the dragon. And the Most High is going to have to come and save us because, we are associating ourselves with them because we are the true people and we're proclaiming ourselves to be the true people. So Satan has already set up the attack, right? So, it's going to get rough. It's going to get rough. But I'm telling you, when I look at this stuff, I'm like, it's a demonic genius, right? It's evil genius. It's at a level. Look, maybe it's AI that did it. I don't know, but it's at a different level.
It is.
So going into the calamity, we're okay. Here's the thing, because now it's like we have to take it. You got to take this at face value, and they shall go steadfastly unto Babylon and make her afraid. Why are they going to make Babylon afraid? How can they make Babylon afraid? Hey, we need to take these black folks out of here. Well, why? There shall come to her and besiege her. The star and all wrath shall they pour out upon her. Then shall the dust and smoke go up unto the heaven, and all they that be about her shall bewail her. Here we go. This is read the context clues. I have to say that to my 8th graders. Read between the lines and get the understanding. Not that you all are 8th graders. I'm not trying to demean you all like that. Okay. I think most of y'all still wear still wear deodorant, and still take showers, at least daily. So just no shade on my 8th graders, no shade. So, but but it says here, and they that remain under her shall do service unto them that have put her in fear. Do you see where that is? And those little snippets, to me, they hold so much power because it's not what's being said. It's the context through what? Through other scriptures that what? Al shall turn that captivity, and they shall return, and they should have their captivity, and they shall be brought back to their land, and they shall, and they shall, and they shall. Let me get this on back here. 2nd Ezra 15. Here we go. Verses 44 and 45. They shall come to her and besiege her. Well, let me get back into this. First, let me start at verse 43. So you get the full context. And they shall go steadfastly unto Babylon and make her afraid. Why? Babylon destroyed the economy. They destroyed their economies. They destroyed their food, everything. Who do you think they're now bargaining with? Who do you think they're now talking to if their food supply is messed up? What continent are they talking to if their food supply is all messed up? Starts with an A. Brother Fast, you must be printing with some sort of dot matrix. Feed them dots. Make sure them dots line up. No, no, it's Africa.
But that is interesting. So you're saying that they're gonna come here because the food over there gonna be bad, so they need to come over here and get it. Is that what you're saying?
No, they gotta go to Africa because Africa is the only place that it's got good food.
Yes, but here's the reality. They can't do anything because why? Because most of their nations have been ravaged.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
And that frees up Africa, right?
Yes. Yes. Hey, we need to make a deal with you. Yeah. We have to make a deal with you. They shall go steadfastly unto Babylon and make her afraid. Hey, we can't eat. In order for us to eat, we're going to take you down. Okay, come and get it.
Interesting?
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting that the Iranians said, for the most part, just like in the 70s, they don't have a problem with black folks?
Mm-hmm.
So they might just like say, hey, we're going to give you a ride back home.
What are the ships
this place is going to be taken out.
But what are the ships of Tarshish? I believe that that's going to be Turkey. I believe that that's going to also be a lot of the Mediterranean nations, to include even Egypt. All of those areas.
Well, if there's nothing new under the sun, and Cyrus, who was a Persian, did it the first time, it makes sense that Iran does it the second time.
Now let me ask y'all this right quick. Remember,
could it be Cyrus, or could it be? I know you're going with this. Go ahead, you go.
I was gonna say, remember some of the people, like some of the old maps used to say that Tarshish was in Spain, and some said it was in Africa and stuff like that. It's interesting that the Spain leader decided not to go along with Trump, right? And he's against Israel. And they were part of the reason why we went into captivity to begin with. It would be interesting because they do have cruise ships, right?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, so that could be the ones who say, look, we're going to help y'all out because America is losing their allies, right? So, I mean, this is a strange situation we're in today.
Mm-hmm. Hey, we drop them off, and then we're picking up.
Yep.
Right? The cargo food, and then we're going right on up. Let me tell you this. You want to know what's awesome? I'm going to tell you this. Let me tell you something real quick about the shipping container. You want to know why I took the shipping container so long to get to where it needed to go to? Let me tell you the route of the shipping container. The shipping container went up to Amsterdam, the Netherlands. Then from the Netherlands, it went to Spain. It went to Spain. And then from Spain, it went over to Tema in Ghana. You know that Spain and Portugal, before the really a lot of the French, you're so if you actually understand a lot of the and they'll tell you this, the um French and English are very, very common of ancestry. It's just that their tongues are different. That's it. Spain or England used to be under France, and France used to be under England. It's crazy, but there are distinct groups there in Europe, and you had. Now I'm going to say this. If you have Norway and what would you have? Sweden doing that. You're going to have Denmark, and then from Denmark, you're going to have the Netherlands, and then from there, you're going to Spain. To me, is already lost because Italy has also showed that they're not trying to go along with the agenda. Of course, surprise, surprise, right? Italy's now trying to not go along with the agenda. Now, do you understand that literally the very concept of whiteness is actually under attack? So now think about this. So now we're talking about white supremacy, and now even the very concept of white supremacy is under attack because they're like, don't label us. Don't label us now. Have you seen anything like this? I look, would I think we'd ever see this in our lifetime? Ooh.
You're right. And now being pro-America is not the in thing.
No, it's not.
No,
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and all those people who think that this is their land, they better read verse 45 every day.
Well, yeah, because now think about this. Now everybody is going to make a claim against them. Hey, well, this is us. This is this. They're not even realizing they have set themselves up to be in a captivity that's going to be even way worse. Hey, we're going to have a technological captivity. That means you're going to go through and you're going to be robot chattel. Y'all just going to be Claude, state your serial number. Claude don't need to know about your name. Claude don't care about your name. Claude suffers from anxiety. Man.
And think about it. When you talk about white supremacy, we're really talking about Anglo-Saxon, because if you're not Anglo-Saxon, even though you may look kind of whitish, they don't see you on the same level.
Mm-hmm.
So all these countries are, they want to get their pound of flesh for the way, America / white supremacy has treated them.
This will be every dystopian sci-fi movie ever created. And think about this. Look, why is that? You're now seeing second Esdras. Let me continue this. They shall come to her and besiege her. Who's going to besiege them or her? Going to be blue hats. Oh, they're trying to fight back. They're trying to do this. They're going crazy themselves. The star in all wrath shall they pour out upon her. They're going to probably be using some nukes in some areas. Then shall the dust and smoke go up unto her or unto the heaven, and all they about that be about her shall bewail her. What is that? That's perpetual. That's perpetual. Remember they say, oh, the nuclear winters and everything else. Yeah, probably for them and probably for places in Europe, North America. So they're getting ready to literally destroy their ecosystem. But here's the reality of this. Think about this. Doesn't that work if you are a data center? Doesn't care about how you get the rain, doesn't care about how toxic the rain is. That acid rain is still a cooling propellant. And you have less natural resources. All right, it's over. Marines are on the way. This is day 15. We're done. The machines are here. They calculated all this.
So, Karis, you're a military man. So so this is another reason why none of this makes sense to me. Because right now would it be a perfect opportunity, because you don't want to fight a war on multiple fronts. But like you're not hearing anything about Russia, Ukraine. Like this would be the perfect time for China to go into Taiwan. You're not hearing anything about the cartel in Mexico. Like this is the perfect time to take their strikes while America is busy with Iran.
It is, but again, military-wise, one of the doctrines that you have to look at is, you don't strike while they're in or they're getting ready to strike, right? Because you never want to turn or divert any attention, okay, from the actual objective. And the actual objective is actually this. The actual objective is to get the US on in, and then what ends up happening is, so you have a militaristic component, but the US, you've always had a diplomatic component that is that's insulated by the economic and financial architecture, infrastructure, okay? So that's how everything has been woven, okay? But so right now, think about this in this manner. The last time that the U.S. had to come on out and play, in terms of the U.S. military, they came out and play. They had to leave Iraq, basically, with the tails between their legs. And then they had to leave Afghanistan literally in a very so the humiliation was so much that there are people literally grabbing on to the tankers, the air tankers, the airframes, the C-5, the Globemasters, that they were mass evacuating at acceptable level. They knew that that some of the embassy and some of the Marines were there, and that was basically, hey, you laid down arms, and then they basically evacuated. That was it, and they did, and they were able to evacuate back to Al Udeid a couple of days later. But at the midst of that, right? Hey, remember Trump had said, oh man, that was such a humiliating defeat and all this other stuff. And Biden was like, it was a humiliating defeat. We're the one that signed the paperwork. Remember, he signed that paperwork in 2020. You see what I'm saying? He signed the paperwork in 2020 that basically forced Biden to be like, all right, yeah, you got the egg on the face. So the reality was, all of these different things that have gone on, the U.S. was able to leave, not just, they were able to leave. They were able to survive it, right? They were able to survive it. This time is that episode of G.I. Joe, okay? It's that episode of G.I. Joe where literally Cobra Commander and all of the Cobra henchmen, right? They get smoked. So that's the reality that we're seeing right here, and that's why we have to pray for our people, because I'm going to tell you this. We don't know what miracles the Most High may be performing with our people that's going to be over in that theater of operation. I don't look. I'm going to tell you this. This may be one of those things that when they see, this is just hypothetical now, but when they see that our people are surviving all of these things, man, how were you able to walk away? You were just in that same bunker that got obliterated. You were just in that same area, that same shelter that got obliterated on the base. How did you not get a scratch? And then I'm going to tell you this. These folks are going to get scared. Do we off them and then have the cover story of, hey, you may have survived that, but we're going to have to lay you on out? Because we can't have you surviving and then saying the miracle had happened, because that's not going to look very good on CBN.
No, it doesn't.
Do you see what I'm saying? That's not going to look very good on Joy FM. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay, get back to base. Don't tell anybody what happened. It's now classified. That's what they'll do. I guarantee you.
Right. They'll only say where the people or mention that when it fits with the narrative that they're running.
Now, I'm going to say, if that happens. But here's the thing. This is now the vengeance of Yahuwah. Right now, this is the vengeance of Yahuwah. And the Most High, I'm going to tell you this. I pray that the Most High does this. And I'm praying that when he does this, you want to know how cold that is? I don't know how I survived on that ship. I don't know how I survived on that landing. I don't know how I survived when my parachute had been blown out the sky and I fell and I landed and I had no scratch on me. I don't know. Because then what will end up happening? Okay. We got to calculate something. Because, the very first thing, if they let that cat out the bag for Negroes, for us, oh, snap. That's a disaster, right? That's the biggest disaster that they'll ever have to face if they let that cat out the bag for us. All right, keep them on the base, keep them in isolation. Can I go home and see my family? No. Can I go home and spend time with my wife and kids? Let them know that I made it, I survived? No. Doesn't that do you see what I'm saying? Do you get that understanding of how that calculus goes with what they're trying to do with these quote unquote FEMA things on base? That's just me. I'm just speculating. Shalom, Shabbat shalom, brother Eric.
Shabbat shalom, brother Karras. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can.
Blessings to you, brother Yakoba. Blessings, blessings. Shabbat shalom, Fast Nickel.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom to the chat. Much respect to you all. So I was just thinking, and tell me what you guys think, honestly. This thing crossed my mind the other day. And I was saying how they're lying about the casualties. They're lying about, the damage that's being done. They them folks over there literally made it against the law to show the damage that they're taking. I don't know what it is about them. There's another reason how you know them not the people and they not of the Most High, because they don't deal in truth. You can't take DNA to prove you the people. You can't show the damage that's being done. Everything is against righteousness and holiness and just square dealing with them folks. But this thing crossed my mind the other day, how I believe they bit off more than they could chew. I thought they did that last year when they bombed them, but the Most High has an appointed time for everything. And Iran stood still, even though they killed a lot of their major military leaders. Iran stayed shut. They didn't react. This time they're showing, okay, now we done gave you 2 chances, and in both chances you lied to us. So we're not gonna give you a 3rd chance. I don't believe the United States is gonna just walk away from this unscathed. I just don't see it. I believe that the Most High and when Iran fully shows they have the upper hand in this, where the world can see, where they no longer be able to hide it, I think the Most High is going to use them as a bargaining chip for our deliverance. Let me tell you what I mean, and you tell me what you think. I don't have to be right. I always tell you that. I think once they get the upper hand, they're going to tell the United States and them black folks that you have over there, you have to let them go. You have to let them go back to the land you stolen from, or wherever they decide. I personally believe it's going to be somewhere in wherever the wilderness is. I'll just play it that way. Wherever the wilderness is, wherever where the Most High made a place for us for a way to escape, I believe Iran's going to say, part of us not decimating you and totally annihilating you, part of the agreement is you have to allow those that want to leave, because everybody there are some people that believe this is our homeland. I don't understand how they could read Genesis 15 and say, when it clearly says in a land that is not yours. Now either that's true and the Most High word is true, or he's lying about his scripture. It literally says a land that is not yours. That's where you're going to be taken to. He said, and in that place I will judge. Well, this place has been under judgment for a while now. Just because we don't see everything going on.
What does it also say? And you will go out with what?
With great
substance. Now here's the reality of this. I see what you're saying, Brother Eric, but I do want to look. And the reason I'm saying that we're seeing this, here's the reality. The closer we get to things, the closer we don't need any interpretation, right? Because it's going to be in our face.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? So the closer that we get, the closer it's just going to be in their face. Now, I'm going to tell you this. As we've been reading Second Esdras, and we're talking about how things are going to go down over there that's going to affect this country. Remember, this country is it. It's the last, it's literally the last stronghold. When they and it says, and they shall go steadfastly unto Babylon and make her afraid. Because why? Because this is where you have this is all the global demise happening right here. Everything is happening coming from out of what? That Arab, Persian Gulf, whatever you want to call it. This is where you now have nuclear war taking effect. This is where you now have the economy literally breaking down.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take long for an economy to break down. It really doesn't. It really does not. You and now this play is on out here because you literally have BlackRock. That's their Elohim, right? Or I would say a priest or a temple, a tabernacle of sorts of their Elohim, and they can't really distribute their Elohim. They can't really circulate their Elohim. You know how crazy that is? To not be able to circulate your Elohim. Like listen, your God cannot pour out your blessing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Can I get a blessing from my God today? No. No. If I bless yeah, go ahead.
No, I honestly I hear what you're saying, and you're right. But I honestly believe part of that great substance is going to be canceled debt. There's a whole lot of Hebrews that's under miles and debt that's just really unable to make good on, because it's so much, and the way the system is set up, you're always grinding at the wheel, but you're never really able to get ahead, right? And I was designed that way to keep their knee on our neck and to keep us in slavery. So now
there would be no more debt.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
They're getting rid of the
right.
Yeah, they're getting rid of the capitalist system.
Right, true. But if you just think about this, everything you're saying is right, but just think about how a person's, like, say you owed $50,000, right? And for your whole let's just say student debt, right? Student debt. I remember there was I can't forget what year it was, but what's the billionaire's name? Oh gosh. Anyway, he went and made a speech at their graduation, and at the end of the speech, he said, and it was a HBCU, and he said at the end of the speech, every graduate is going to have his debt. I'm paying for your student loan.
Yeah, I remember that. He was a black billionaire out of Atlanta, and he had an investment company.
Yes. His face is right in there. I can't picture his name.
It's like Thomas something. I can't. Yeah, it'll come back
to me. It'll come when you get off this thing.
It wasn't no Elon or Bill Gates. This is a black billionaire.
No, yes. And it's gonna come to me. And the whole crowd went crazy. Do you know what that lifted off of their soul, off of their mind, off of their shoulders, to think that this now man has paid off my student debt? Now I could go out here and I can make whatever I need to make or do whatever I need to do and don't have to worry about that bill on my mind. That's a major relief. That's deliverance.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So everything you guys are saying is true, but to think that if I owe this great amount of money and all of a sudden I got a zero balance, that's great substance. It's like you paid that bill off. You had to have the money to pay that bill off. No, the Most High paid it off for you. He paid that debt for you. He said,
I don't see that as a great substance.
Say again?
Oh, it's going to be more than that. Yeah, it's going to be more than it's not being in debt. But go ahead, brother.
I think that between now and 2030, when they say you own nothing and be happy, part of it is they're going to wipe out the debt. If 26 is a Jubilee year, it could be this year with the reset. And to your point about letting us go.
Right, that's the name, Robert Smith. Yes. Thank you, brother.
This country is so prideful, basically they're going to have to be put into a checkmate situation to basically let us go.
Yes. I'm just saying the enormity of having that bill taken off of your mind, that could be considered great substance. I truly believe, because the scripture says we're going to leave here with our gold and with our silver, right? Whether that's literal or figurative, it's still a blessing of starting having all this debt and then to now be at zero. At peace.
Yes. Because peace surpasses what? All understanding. And when you're at peace, guess what? Your body actually is able to regenerate. It's able to recover.
Yes, that's it. You said it better than I was trying to articulate it, but you said it better than I could articulate it.
No, because you brought up that great point. Thank you, brother Eric. That was an awesome point. And that's where, again, when does that Jubilee year start? Because I look at it like this. Yes, will the culmination be 1,000 years later? Absolutely. We're going to be in a land of unwalled villages. Absolutely. However, right now, in probably the next 30 to 60 days, I'm not making up this timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Trump is.
Mm-hmm.
All we can do is just talk about the timeline that he's making up. He's doing it. All we can do is just be reactionary to what he's actually showing us, because why? Because that's what the wise do. They consider the times and the seasons. They consider these things that's going on so the prudent can plan. That's a blessing to be able to plan for this. We may not have been able to enact all of our plans, but at least we've been planning. At least we can say, hey, well, this has happened, that's happened, this has happened. Look, we already know it said that this place is going to be, they're going to bring in the caterpillars, they're going to bring in the spoilers. Why? Because now you have these fill-ins with Second Esdras. Now you have these fill-ins with Obadiah, with Isaiah. Because why? Because when the deal goes down and the ships of Tarshish come, after we had literally survived this thing, who's going to say what? There's no more case closed. Okay, well, Steve told you, I'm not trying to say nothing. Just point me to the exits. I don't need to say nothing to nobody.
Absolutely.
I'm out.
Absolutely.
Where are my kids? Where are my kids? That's all I'm going to be asking for. Where are my kids? Where's my mom? Where's my dad? Where's my cousins? Hey.
Another thing I can actually see happening now is Trump being removed before his term is ended. And the reason being is all these MAGA people who were pro-Trump, like everybody hates him now. So he's done his part that he needed to do. So if they remove him and put in a JD Vance, now it's a seat, like they can really put in place what they really want to do, because now they've removed him. Everybody's going to be happy. I mean, it's just diabolical in terms of their playbooks.
Mm-hmm. But I'm going to tell you this: Trump ain't going anywhere. That's where they had the national, rapid response force, or whatever they want to call it, i.e. the Gestapo. Let's just call it what it actually really is. They're setting up their internal security forces. They're setting up their gendarmerie, right? They're martial law.
And the other thing is,
They're
he's
not.
their God.
Go ahead.
Also.
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
No, I don't mean to cut you off. He's their God. You have to keep that in perspective. He is the epitome of what America was always supposed to be. He's standing up there saying all the stuff they wanted to say out loud. He's saying that emboldened them to go out here and think they could put hands on us. And every time they put hands on us, they get knocked the hell out. But he's made them bold and saying and the very image of their white supremacy. That's what this country was built on. That's what America is. That is what Christianity is. So he's the epitome of that. He's not going anywhere. And when he does leave, this is what I believe. I could be wrong. It's going to be him or it's going to be Barron. If he's not the Antichrist, it's going to be his son. Like the scripture says, at the last trump. Is either at this last administration that he's just in, because you only get to serve twice. Is either at this administration where all hell is going to break loose, or when his son finally takes office. Barron. That's just me. That's the way I see it. I don't have to be right, but I think that's the way it's going.
I think to be honest, look, America, when you look at these scriptures, let's take a look at this. I think we get so caught up because we're going to have to be, but I want to put this in here because this was what we were talking about. So 2 Ezra 45, and they that remain under her shall do service unto them that have put her in fear. And here we go. This is 2 Ezra 15 and 46. And thou, Asia, that art partaker of the hope of Babylon, and art the glory of her person. So basically that moves to the east. This moves over to Asia. Remember what, and I don't know, I wanted to touch on this because there are so many prophetic things and declarations that was being said this week, right? Oh well, we're gonna lift sanctions on Russia, on Russian oil and yada yada yada. Putin was like, I don't care.
Mhm.
I'm looking at Asia. Those are the markets. That's where the development's at. That's where everything's at. Because now, remember, they're going. Oh, brother Eric jumped off, but they're going to be the ones that for that hour, right? They're going to have they're going to be exalted, right? And how are they going to be exalted? Hey, look, we got the people of the Most High back, and this and this and this. Okay, thank you. Now leave us alone so we can, get back to having a relationship with our family again. Okay, leave us alone so we can, get this and get that together.
You're right about Asia, but we haven't heard much about the Silk Road lately.
Well, because the Silk Road, remember, if you look at the Silk Road was always a process. Some of it went into Europe, but that was never the biggest market. The biggest market for the Silk Road was always Africa. When they reconstitute the Silk Road crosses into Egypt, and it also crosses into basically from Yemen to Djibouti. That's the markets on the Silk Road. And then the Silk Road also hits ports in East Africa that include Dar es Salaam and Mombasa. Dar es Salaam in Tanzania and Mombasa in Kenya.
And Brother Yacoba mentioned, I think he mentioned Sudan earlier, and Sudan is loaded with oil.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. They're right there on the other side of the Red Sea, but that area is all oil rich. Even Libya, even Egypt, it's all oil rich. It's just that Egypt can't control their oil because Egypt is still a partition state. It's still a partition nation. And Libya hadn't been able to control its oil for a while because ever since Gaddafi was like, "Hey, we're going to power, the continent." Yeah, he was a goner. He was a goner.
Well, let me just say shalom because I have to leave to go to a training. It was great being on here with all of you.
Shalom, Shabbat shalom, brothers.
Yes, Shabbat shalom. So yeah, but that gives a tremendous amount of insight because when Putin said that, then all of a sudden, the CEO of BlackRock had come out and stated, you can't get your deposits. You know what that means when you can't get your deposits? You ain't got no money. That's what that means. It doesn't mean anything to us, but it does in the long run because when the rich are not able to spend, that trickle down, which is what we're in, this is trickle down economics. This is Reaganomics, and it's absolutely horrible. It's absolutely horrible. Why? Because even our oppressors are understanding this is horrible. They're living in horror. Why are they going to have people besiege her? Well, because the reality is this. These people are going to try and rise up. And who are they going to rise up against? The White House. Thank you, Brother Yacoba. Appreciate it. This is what's going to end up happening. After what? After them bombs go off. And here's the most cold part about it. Then shall the dust and smoke go up unto her, or up into the heaven, and all they that be about her shall bewail her. The star and wrath shall they pour out upon her. Look, I think, to be honest, it's not just going to be these other nations bombing or doing what they're going to do to the United States. It's also going to be the folks in charge. Don't worry. Look, don't trip. A lot of these nations, or excuse me, a lot of these states, they will gladly exit themselves. Hey, we're not in this. Because why? Because they are going to be sucked into this financial collapse. Leave us alone. Get us on out of here. To me, I already told you. California, the West Coast, it's gone. Who really here wants to actually field a dozens of trillions of dollars of debt, of financial debt? Nobody in their right mind.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody in their right mind. Okay, you can't pay the debt, then I'm going to take the land. And on that land, I'm going to take the people. And they that remain under her shall do service unto them that have put her in fear. Who's going to be the custodian of that debt? These Asian countries. Through who? Through China. This is now, it's happening. But we have to be, we have to understand not to be fearful in this. Could it be fearful? Yeah, absolutely it could be. But please don't be fearful. This is just how the Most High operates. He gives us this understanding in advance. You now have Cuba. Cuba's saying that they're trying to negotiate. They're trying their best to break these other nations before what? Before they're putting up, and as I had stated, we're entering that season of Ishtar, Easter, Anti. This is a season of their of their principality.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say all their delusions, all their principalities, like you said.
Mm-hmm. What are they doing? They're serving up their sacrifice. Okay, well, if we could sacrifice, and those Marines, man, pray for our people. Those Marines are gonna be like, yeah, let's do this, man.
They don't know they're about to be sacrificed.
No, because they've been told over and over and over and over, hey, this is what you trained for. This is what you planned for.
Mm-hmm.
Man, if I was still, if I was, sorry, I'll let you go in a second, brother Eric. But if I was still in the Marine Corps, when I was in the Marine Corps 20 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, let's do this. Can't wait.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a lot of festivities going on because they know, man, we can get on out here. We could do this. Think about what they are being told on that ship. Hey, let's get this thing done so we can get everything wrapped up by Easter time, so we can get this ham, this honey baked ham, and
right.
and King's Hawaiian rolls, and have a great time, drink some beers.
Yes,
that's what. Look, man, that's brainwashing at its finest.
Yeah, absolutely. And like it's more on the lines of encouraging them as opposed to what he said when he stood there and said, and they're going to be casualties, but that's what happens in war. He's basically telling them, you know, this is what you signed up for. I don't think that's the smartest way to go. What you said, listen, let's get this thing done, fellas. This is what we trained for. This is what our excellence is about to be put on display. We're going to go in here and we're going to do. Not listen. Some of y'all are not coming back home. Who wants to hear that? So yeah.
Well, you got to remember that's to desensitize that's to hopefully desensitize the audience. Unfortunately, I don't know if you knew this, brother Eric. We're not the audience in this one. That message is not for us. Okay? That message is actually for them. We're not the audience. We're here as a voice literally in the wilderness. We can't be
As it
wrong
should be.
about everything. Yeah.
We come out of her, my people. We this ain't our fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we sideline observers, as it should be.
Yeah, and you know, I hate to say this, but
Sound like you're in the
we
matrix.
know what this worst case scenario. Can you
Brother
hear me?
Paris, you're going in and out. I don't know if everybody can hear. Maybe it's just my phone, but it's like you're in the matrix.
No, that's me. That's me.
I can hear you just fine now.
Now, okay, there you go. When I'm scouring around for some articles and things of that nature, it messes me up. So, but yeah. Also, here's another big one. Russia shut off its internet in Moscow.
Hmm.
Shut off its internet, so it still has internet. Okay, it's just that any internet that's connected outside of the Russian internet is not available. So obviously, they're getting ready to do something
Yeah.
major at. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, you have major UAE oil terminals and on fire. You now have a lot of things going through that, and what's going through, especially in they say the settler nation or the colonizer nation over there. Things are really getting ready to look. They tried to hide. That's the crazy thing. They were trying to hide all of the destruction that was going on. But the reality is, you know, you can't hide things from the internet forever. You just can't. They did a good job. They were trying. Trust me, they were trying. They were on it. But the reality was they couldn't really hide this forever. And I'm going to tell you this. Look, with the Marines going in, here's the reality. Do you know if will you ever be told when the operation kicks off?
Nope. It's going to be after the fact.
Will you ever be told if the operation was a success or if it wasn't a success?
Nope.
If that operation, I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to say not if, but when you find out, when the people start to find out that the operation was not a success, that's when these people are going to get mean.
Yeah, because they can't go to the bank and get their money out. They can't make the moves that they would normally move, and no one is giving them as I don't know if you saw this, Brother Karras, when people were in Dubai and I think it was another country, and they was trying to get out, and they would go on the website and or make a call, and the message was don't. I'm gonna paraphrase it because I don't know it exactly. You can go back and see it. Don't rely on the United States for uh plans to get out of whatever country it is. That was literally the message that was left on for the people to hear. They weren't. It wasn't able to speak to anybody. They wasn't giving any guidance. They was basically telling them, "Don't rely on us for help." Was basically the message. I mean, this country is getting exactly what they asked for. And those people had to get out of those countries like Dubai and other places. I think it was Bahrain. Bahrain. I think it was Bahrain, to come back to the United States because those places was being bombed.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
that's
what is it? What is it now? Like, I think what did Bahrain say? The death penalty? It said death penalty in Bahrain for taking for social media posts. This is
wow. Yeah, we in it.
This
We
is
in
it. Yeah, Bahraini prosecutors now seeking death penalty for citizens accused of photographing damage from Iranian attacks. Bahrain arrest too. Yeah. And the prosecutors now seeking. This is real. This is real.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know how real desensitization is? It's that real. That's why I said, listen, family, when I ask you for your help, for your support, even on Shabbat, this is real. Now that you understand, every time I even put my voice on out here, I'm about to have an AI do-over voice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Have it the most Caucasian sounding voice. Hello, this is Chad. Welcome to Covenant Awakenings.
I'm always praying for you. I'm always praying for Jacob. I'm always praying for Pastor Rick. I'm always praying for Sister Shonda and all the rest of these platforms, because to be involved in this and to tell the truth, clear in the face of them folks that say we're not telling the truth. They're just telling you straight out. We're not giving you any evidence, and you're not gonna see any truth behind what we got going on. It is really dangerous to stand on these platforms, to come on these platforms and to give us the information that the Most High put on your heart to deliver to us. I appreciate it. I'm always praying for you guys. I don't care. We're not always going to agree on everything, but to know that you're doing the work of the Most High, you cannot stand in the way of that. Whatever is going not according to plan, that's for the Most High to straighten out with his servants. You understand? It is not for the people. Not to say we're just supposed to just follow blindly, but your spirit is going to register with the spirit that the person is doing to the best of their ability to follow what the Most High is doing. You understand? And the best thing to do, as opposed to attacking, the family and those that are trying, as long as you ain't saying nothing goofy like Yeshua is not the savior, you just pray for our family to be led in the right direction and that they're following.
Wait a second, Brother Eric. Not say anything goofy. Wait a second. Here we go. All right, don't say anything goofy. I got these little sound effects in the background,
You add to the platform.
Here we go. Because here we go. We're here at this time, Covenant Awakenings. We're going here to let you know. This is how I get my algorithm boosted right here. Here's the algorithm. Okay. All right, enough of that.
Yeah, but listen, according to Ephesians 4:32, I believe it is, 23 to 4. Listen, we ought to be. Matter of fact, can you bring that up? Because I hate to misquote the scriptures.
Yeah.
I think it's Ephesians 4:32. I believe it is. I could be wrong.
Let me get this on up for you. This is Link. Go ahead. We're going to be doing things like the Matrix. We got to get our folks out of Babylon. Neo. All right, here we go. And yeah, look, I don't know why they showed the Matrix, because they were showing them their captivity. Here we go. Which scripture?
I believe it's Ephesians 4:32. I believe. Can go all the way down. I believe all the way down.
Mm-hmm. And be ye kind one to another,
Yes.
tenderhearted,
Thank you.
forgiving one another, even as Yahuwah for Hamashiach's sake hath forgiven you.
Period. Point blank. You understand? That should be always in our heart towards one another. Not we all right, not we all wrong, not you got it. You understand? But that should always be the focus. There's a reason why there's forgiveness there, because somebody crossed somebody. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was done in ignorance, whether it was done just because you didn't like this person for whatever reason, there's some forgiveness there, you know, and that's what you should be operating. That's what we all should be operating in, not looking for a get back or reciprocity. That's not how the Most High sees it, you know. So anyway, that's always my thing. I'm for all Israel to be saved. I'm for all us to be one big happy family. It's all right if we don't agree on everything, but to agree and disagree and still be able to break bread and be in fellowship, that's what's important, because that's what's going to get us out of here, you know. But hopefully everybody's not going to see it that way. Unfortunately, you know, some people want payback, you know, but if the Most High acted that way towards us, where will we be? We ain't got a
Come
chance.
on now.
We ain't got no chance of redemption, you know. So that's anything. Like I said, that's always my prayer for you and the rest of the platforms, all of them. I'm for all Israel, you know, and that's how it's always going to be with me. I don't know about anybody else, but that's how it's always going to be with. I'm not easily offended. I've been through too much to be easily offended, you know. So.
And we all get corrected. Look, everybody has to go through this correction thing, because I'm going to tell you, when do you know how much everybody's eschatology has changed? When I first awakened, I thought that place, that look, southern Greece, really that's what it is. It's southern Greece right there, the Hyksos, however you want to call it, that area. I thought that was the promised land. And then, you know, even going there in that region, I'm like, man, that place is all dirt. They're fighting for dirt. They're fighting for places that really don't even have any type of oil or anything else,
Exactly.
let alone gold.
It's a dust bowl.
It's you know, but if you have learned that lie is, it stays with you until you're corrected. Mm-hmm. And the Most High, through his grace, has allowed us to be corrected. Here's the thing. If you don't want to be corrected, then guess what? The Most High is not going to correct you.
Right. Exactly.
Because he operates in what? In humility.
Humility.
Right?
It's
humility. He's a gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
Our Elohim is a gentleman. And he loves us. That's how much he loves us.
Yeah. Choose you this day who you will serve.
Let me say thank you. Truth is Yah. Thank you for the gift. Hallelujah. And Vita, Yah's child. Thank you for the gift. And you know, and that's why, look, you know, I said this originally for those coming on in here. I got the text message last night from Pastor Rick Fletcher. He said, Brother Karras, he said, you may want to think about going on this weekend. Mm-hmm. And you know, and the thing is, that was also in my spirit, you know, but sometimes I'm just like, I'll just wait. But here's the reality is, was this was a big deal. Mm-hmm. This was a big deal. T-Bird, thank you for the gift. She said, is Trump actually talking about sending ICE agents to Iran to be part of the ground force? I don't think that they have a legal mandate to be able to do that. That is, generally speaking, for the armed forces. However, he actually could do that. He could actually have a detachment, because he is technically commander in chief, and ICE is under Department of Homeland Security. Yes, they could do that. No kidding, they could do that. Now, if he's trying to do that, I don't know. But probably, and I say this, probably the reason he's doing this, I can see why he's trying to do it. It's kind of messed up at the same time, but I can see why he's trying to do it. Administratively speaking, and as I told folks earlier this week in my career in the military, there's some questions I'm gonna answer just in a second. You do have people attaching to military elements. Okay, that's no kidding. That happens. Okay, they would call it a GIM or some sort of joint interagency task force, and GIM is called like a joint interagency, and that's like an international military or something task force. That's been a while. But it's joint. It's a joint interagency unit. But the joint interagency task force, that's what you have, because they can go ahead, and what they would do is they can go ahead and if there's like foreign fighters or things of that nature, especially if they hold like a U.S. passport and things of that nature, like what they're doing with ISIS, people that had left back in 10 years ago. Remember, they said we're going to go and join ISIS and blah blah blah. Well, those people that said that and put all their stuff on social media, now they literally have international warrants for their arrest. They have Interpol warrants. They can never come back.
Wow.
And and again, I would say with the reason that would happen is because technically by law, right now, ICE isn't getting paid, neither are certain TSA members. So in order for people to get paid, and that's why they're requesting additional funding, they're trying to work through loopholes. Okay, well, they're going to attach to this unit or attach to that unit and go from there. So that's how that works. Thank you, T-Bird, again for the gift. Hallelujah. Lenya, thank you for the gift. Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. Naughty by Nephilim cover. That's Nas Yehudi. I will check the email. We got a lot of our graphic designers on out here. You know how creative we are. Look, you can stick us in the wilderness anywhere. We're gonna make that thing. If you give us literally unlimited resources like wood, it doesn't matter. We will get something constructed in no time flat. Somebody had Hebrew girl had the comment, is that the settler prime minister is still alive. I have been looking there again. This is actually a real legitimate deal. This is a real legitimate deal. And you now have a couple of different things going on, post on X that's showing different things. And let me share this, because supposedly this is coming out of that settler nation area. And I just did that this is supposedly the residents. Here you go. And you have to understand. Now, I don't know the veracity of that report, but
when it comes to them folks, they push a lot of propaganda for sympathy and stuff. So and like earlier, I said it is against. They made it against the law to show actual footage, so they only gonna let you put out stuff to gain worldwide sympathy. But them folks don't realize they did too much evil for the world to be on their side. Them bombing Gaza and the way they did, and now looking for sympathy. You kicking you you crying wolf basically. I don't know if that's the right analogy, but you're talking in the wind. No one is going to come help you. The world stage is not going to say, "Oh, poor them folks, oh, poor Israel." No, you did too much evil. You're not now. You reap what you sow. I honestly believe it's a rabid, like this says, Damascus is a ravenous heap. I honestly believe that's what what's the name looks like. They just not showing it.
Well, here's this. Al Turner has something showing like teeth.
I don't believe that's him. I think that's a double.
Yeah, it's asking Grok, is this screenshot AI generated?
Yeah, that's not him. When I first saw that, I said that's a different person. They probably did a good job with a body double, but that's not him.
But it's funny because this is going to be that disinformation. This is what we were talking about. Disinformation. You're now here in the most disinformation era ever. That's why I try to say, like, hey, clearly the Strait of Hormuz is shut. Clearly, they are literally wanting to remove the U.S. from the region. That's not a game. Clearly, the U.S. has asked a couple of times for a ceasefire from Iran. Don't get that twisted either.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So all of this stuff that's happening, you can't ignore it. And right. I know that people want to ignore it, but here's the reality of everything. The numbers simply don't lie.
Right.
You can ignore, but the problem is, if we were winning, wouldn't BlackRock be letting people utilize private credit?
Their money?
Yeah. Wouldn't you be able to get your
money? That's when you know it's real.
Yeah.
When the rich one is want to remove their money and whatever, go elsewhere, put it elsewhere, and they say no, this is for real. It's not a game.
Yeah, exactly, because the reality has always been this. The bank run isn't necessarily in the banks. It's not in the banks. The bank runs are actually now in the stock market. Excuse me. And if you go to the stock market, then that stock market is going to show you, they're now, stocks are coming down. And stocks aren't just really coming down like that anymore because they're still trying to backfill the stock market. That's what they're trying to do, continue to backfill. But they are realizing that you're not going to get that liquidity because everything is trying to get tied up into what? Gold futures, silver futures, right? And you have now countries, these are certain countries, I can let you know on good authority that these certain countries are no longer allowing USD purchases. There are certain countries in the Middle East that's no longer allowing USD purchases.
And that brings up a good point. It just made me think about something as well. Remember earlier we was talking about we leave here with great substance. Now just imagine everybody's not walking out of here with big bags of money. I don't care how much money you have in the bank. I mean, some people have small amounts, larger amounts. But say you got millions of dollars in the bank, right? You're not walking out of here with suitcases full of money in them.
Well,
So that has to be a relative. God must be saying something relative in regards to while we're leaving here with great substance, because there are some Hebrews that's very rich in this country.
but here's the thing. Define wealth in a
Exactly.
country where
dollar
your
bill is
wealth
crap.
well, the dollar bill has always been, it's a debt instrument.
Mm-hmm.
By the full faith and credit of the United States.
Mm-hmm. That's
Trump
not even backed by gold anymore.
Exactly. And Trump lost the full faith and credit of the United States February 28th, 2025.
Right.
So believe it or not, you have substance, right? You have some substance, but try to take that substance somewhere else.
Right. It's not right. Because I remember when Tanzania, I believe it was Tanzania, I could be wrong, when they said, listen, we're not backing the dollar bill no more. You better change your currency. You have up until such and such a time to
that was Kenya. Currency. Yeah, that was Kenya.
Kenya. Okay, Kenya.
Yeah, that was Rudo.
And they told them, if you don't do it by such and such, your American dollar is going to be worthless. Some didn't heed, and they were they were really heartbroken. You know, he warned them. So
yeah, and now if you think about this, now the door is actually closing on the U.S. because the reality is now other countries can't trust the U.S.
Right.
Oh man, thank you. Before I forget, Iran is actually saying that, okay, so when I was talking about the Strait of Hormuz being closed, it's closed. It's closed for all American designated or Western ships. It's actually closed for all ships. It's only closed for ships, tankers. Here's the catch. That's buying their oil in the Chinese yuan. Oh my God. Oh my God. Do you know what that means? That means that every purchase, every transaction, the U.S. is now losing billions of dollars a day. Billions. The U.S. is going to go broke. Strait of Hormuz is closed. You can't, and if you want to have oil and Iran is giving you passage, that's why, look, y'all think that this is going to be like, oh, they're going to wait for another couple of days. No, they can't. They're losing billions by the day. The war is costing billions by the day.
And remember, they attached to them folks. So if they're losing billions, that place in the Middle East is losing
billions. Yeah. And do you understand? They know that they're never going to be able to rebuild that. It's gone. Because the trust in the dollar is gone. The dollar is gone. So they're gone. The problem is they cannot have them evacuate like that. Because then what ends up happening is something that's far worse than any nuclear weapon. You know what that is? It's a fear. When I tell you that fear,
and them folks is really unfair because the Iron Dome ain't holding up like they thought it would. Their confidence in that is gone. A lot of those, like the resident areas that you showed, they said, some of them said they were so afraid because they never heard the explosion like that. See, that Iron Dome gave them a false sense of security. And now that it's not working as well as they thought it was, reality is starting to set in. They're vulnerable.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something that's even colder. When we talk about Second Esdras, when they said that Babylon will be in fear, like they were in fear. You want to know why? Remember, every single time that something would happen, it wouldn't just be the anti-S word, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they would always hear that if you mess with God's people, right, then God will strike you down.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
All this time, the world was thinking that those were the people. But now that the Most High is turning his face back to his true people, this whole world is under judgment.
Mm.
You see?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And you have to understand, look, they think that they're gonna go to other places in the world. No, they're not. When they say, oh, they're gonna go to, this country in Africa, that like, no, they're not. They think they are because why? Because of as all things are right now, yeah, they think, hey, nothing's happened yet. We could do what we want to do until when? Oh, America's down? Uh-oh. Hey, we're giving you time to leave. We're just trying to be nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even their shelters are crumbling. And remember earlier this week, they said, hey, we're taking the gloves off. We're taking the kitty gloves off. We were just hitting you with the small stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting hit with the big stuff. What do they say to the mountains? Fall on me. Oh, my goodness.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So now here we are, man. We are here in this time on a Shabbat talking about this. But I'm going to tell you, family, fear not.
Right.
Fear not. Now, are we going to go through this thing? Yeah, but we're going to survive through it. Because why? Because that's what the Most High Word says.
Exactly. It says, yea, though you go through the shadow of death. We have to go through it, but fear no evil. Don't look to the left.
Thou art with thee.
Right.
Yep.
Don't do it. No. Just stay focused. So you
Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort thee. Thy rod and thy staff. Because why? Because we have to remain humble.
Amen.
Humble. Humility is what wins the day. I'm going to do what I want to do. Okay. If I want to do what I want to do, I'd be on the couch just laying down and trying to recover. No, the Most High said, no, I need you to do stuff. And with that doing stuff, my time is now coming to a little bit of an end because I have my family calling me. So I tried to do it in this window.
Thank you, brother Karras. I always appreciate your hard work, bro. I really do. And I always tell you, listen, don't worry about the naysayers. I tell the same thing about Jacob. We have to stick together. Don't be concerned about who's saying this and who's saying that. If the Most High gave you an assignment, stick to your assignment, stick to your mission, because that's who you're gonna have to answer to. You're not gonna have to answer the man, because man don't know everything. They don't see the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
You dig? You follow what the Most High tell you to do, and you'll be all right.
Hallelujah. Yeah, thank you, Brother Eric. Let me get you on off here because I got to make a quick exit. But thank you, family, for tuning on in. Please pray for our brothers and sisters everywhere. This is the time. Listen, again, like I said, you don't have to hang on to every word that I say. If there's things that you have concerns with, ask the Most High. This is it. This is the season. He's our Father. He's my Father. He's the same Father as yours. He's our Heavenly Father. We're His people. And it doesn't matter if you are an Israelite. It really doesn't. As long as you call on His name. Through His Son, who? Yahushua HaMashiach. And now all of a sudden, the Gentiles are getting this memo. They're going to have to, because they're going through pain. And this is a painful situation that they are involved in. But hey, at the end of the day, that's not my concern. My concern is making sure that the Most High gets the glory. That's it. Thank you, brother Eric, for the gift. Hallelujah. So with that said, family, you can see me here. I'll be back on Monday, or else something happens, and you'll see me if something happens. So with that said, family, shalom Well, let me do this. Let me do this. Here we go. With that said, this is Covenant Awakenings. And family, shalom, salama, siemi, shalom. Peace and blessings. Yasharel.